Sega as a company doesn't have the best reputation. They don't always make the greatest decisions or the most polished games out there, but as a whole, the games always have amazing atmospheres and have so much love and care put into them. But this was especially visible in the late 90s and early 2000s. During these times, Sega made lots of out there games, like a platformer where you roll around a giant egg, a space-themed dance game where you kill aliens with dance moves, and a game where you run around as a semi-alien hedgehog shooting guns at government soldiers. But even though these ideas sound absurd on paper, most of them are actually really fun and creative games that you wouldn't find from anyone else but Sega. And in my opinion, one of the best games created during this experimental era of Sega was called Samba De Amigo. The first Samba De Amigo game was an arcade game released in 1999. The game was initially only available in Japanese markets before being ported over to North America the next year. The game was a simple rhythm game where you play as a monkey named Amigo who loves his maracas. Your job is to shake the attached maracas to the beat of the music as indicated by blue circles. The game was simplistic in concept, but in practice the game becomes highly addictive, as you have to keep trying and trying to get the high score. The game featured around 20 songs, each one being a brand new composition made specially for the game. This is very impressive considering that almost all the songs in this game are pre-existing tracks that get completely revamped. And in some cases, like Take On Me and Tub Thumping, they sound like completely different songs. Overall, this game was a new, unique take on the rhythm game genre that has catchy songs and addictive gameplay. The game must have done relatively well too, considering it got a port to Sega's home console, the Dreamcast, only a year later. As far as I can tell, things are pretty much unchanged from the original release. The only real difference, aside from being able to select any song whenever you want, is the difference in control method. Due to the console not being a specialized arcade unit, they had to include accessories for the console. These included maracas, a footpad, and a sensor. This is pretty much one-to-one to how the original game controlled, but now it's just not attached to the system in the same way. But apart from that, there's not much more. Overall, the game was and still is a one-of-a-kind game oozing charm and personality that plays excellently. However, the game somehow got even better with a new release for a new millennium. Only a year after the original Samba De Amigo game launched, they got a brand new game coming out for both arcade and Dreamcast. However, this one sadly never left Japan. This expansion of the original was called Version 2000. The game was quite similar to the original, however it has lots of fun new additions. Aside from the obvious addition of new songs, the main feature of this game is Hustle Mode. In Hustle Mode, the usual maraca gameplay is mixed up with dances. This mode is way more energetic, and the switch between timing maraca shakes and dancing makes it very fun and chaotic. Hustle Mode is less of a classic experience and is mainly waggling the remote around, but all in all, this is just a fun extra mode that shakes up the normal gameplay. Speaking of extra modes, the game features a love checker mode, where two players work together and try to get as big of a love score as they can. On top of that, they added a volleyball mode that replaces some of the mini games from the original. There's also a brand new character, Amigo's sister, Amiga. On top of all that, the game later down the line got DLC, featuring 6 new songs. Overall, this game was a perfect expansion of the original, by simply building off of it. All of the songs from the original return on top of the new songs, plus every single song has both an original and Hustle Mode version. But, unfortunately, the Dreamcast was discontinued due to underperformance, and along with other projects at the time, the North American localization of the game was cancelled, and the franchise fell dormant for a couple years. Luckily, the series got a new release only a couple years later. This version, simply called Samba De Amigo, is actually an enhanced port of both the original and version 2000. The game wasn't even developed by Sega. Instead, it was a project by Gearbox Studios, who proposed the idea to Sega, who gave it the green light and helped oversee development. In reality, the game does feature a lot of the same content as the original, just with upgraded visuals. All the stages return, the menus have been overhauled, featuring 3D models and other new additions, and the Mii's even get featured, being your icon and appearing in the background of levels. Plus, the game got this gorgeous new opening cutscene. The game did actually feature a lot of new content though. It had tons of new songs, some of which even featuring cameos from other Sega characters like Ooh La La from Space Channel 5 and Sonic the Hedgehog from Sonic the Hedgehog. With all these new features, the game was bigger and better than ever. However, the main detractor from this version of the game is its controls. Personally, I don't know what the original feels like because I don't have 300 pounds burning a hole in my pocket, but even without trying that, I can tell that the Wii's controls fall short of the originals. You see, the original Wii remote doesn't actually have gyro controls. The remote basically just guesses from an accelerometer inside. This makes it really hard to hit notes sometimes, and it's 10 times worse if you have the disfortune to have to use a nunchuck. The nunchuck is basically just a hunk of plastic with a couple things inside. It has no motion controls whatsoever, not even an accelerometer like the Wii remote. This means that your Wii remote has to guess where that nunchuck will be and what it wants to do. This leads to the game being really inaccurate. But to be fair, this isn't really Sega's fault. It's just an unfortunate side effect of being released on the Wii before the Motion Plus came around. But apart from that nitpick, in my opinion, this is definitely the best Samba De Amigo game by far. It's the most content-rich of the games, whilst also being the most accessible. Plus, you can find this game for an excellent price nowadays. If you haven't tried any of these games yet, and you still have your Wii lying around, I would say definitely give this game a shot. It is absolutely worth your time. But after that, the Samba De Amigo franchise fell dormant for many years. There was seemingly no sign of a new release, and Amigo just got relegated to being cameos in other games. It seemed like Sega had forgotten about Samba De Amigo, until one day, in 2023, a whole decade and a half after the last game released on the Wii, Sega revealed a brand new installment in the Samba De Amigo series. A new Samba De Amigo game was revealed at a Nintendo Direct in early 2023, and released later that year. The game differs quite a bit from the previous installments. To start, this Samba De Amigo game barely features any samba track, or even returning tracks for that matter, and in cases like Take On Me and Tub Thumping, which were added by DLC, they use non-samba versions of the songs. Overall, this game's track selection is very odd, and mostly just features pop songs that, in most cases, are just the original songs with little changes at all. I wish they would have kept to samba, but I don't mind these songs, I just think they need more variety in genres. The game's atmosphere is also very different. From the bright and colourful, wacky towns of the original games, this one has a virtual dreamscape theme to everything. Personally, I'm a big fan of both, and I think the next game should just take what works from both and mix it together. Something I'm not a huge fan of though, is Amigo's redesign. In this game, they swap out Amigo's iconic poncho and sombrero for a hoodie. While I know this was made to be the default player outfit, because in this game you can actually customize Amigo, which is very cool, and luckily you can give him his original attire back. But I wish they had the classic look for the default costume and used it in the marketing. The game also shakes up the gameplay by adding new mechanics and remixing old ones. The game also does away with the dedicated original and hustle modes. They've gone in favor of other options, where hustle becomes crazy mode. The dance moves are amped up to 11 for this game, where you do new unique actions like jumping, punching, and various others. This game also features hold notes, where you drag the maracas around circles. On top of that, the game features new control options, such as the option to play with buttons. This is great for people who don't own Joy-Cons or can't overexert themselves for a game, but I'm glad the classic shake controls return, as they're my favourite way to play the game. Plus, they feel more responsive than ever. Altogether, I think the gameplay of this entry is definitely the best overall, but the game also features some other bonus modes, including the returning Love Checker mode, where you play with a friend and try to get a high score, as well as other modes like Showdown, World Party, and this game's career mode, Streamigo. This mode is a parody of social media, where you try to gather popularity through your sambaing skills. Compared to previous career modes, which were mostly just playing songs to unlock content, Streamigo features unique conditions like no miss notes, giant notes, and other various missions. While the other career modes were never my favourite, as I'd rather just play the songs at my own leisure, it's nice to have a mission mode of sorts for the game. So, altogether, the game is good, but it's just lacking in a lot of areas, like weird song choices, paywalled content, and overall, not that much to do. And while the game is a great game, it's not a great Samba De Amigo game. A Samba De Amigo game should be ultra stylized, unique, and have samba songs. Plus, for the £40 price tag, I just don't think it's worth it. But if you can find a secondhand copy or get the game on sale, I do think it is worth it. The game still is fun, it's just not as fun as it could be. In conclusion, I simply adore the Samba De Amigo games, and I hope Sega isn't put off by Party Central's lukewarm reception, as I think, if given the chance, another Samba De Amigo game could be amazing. All I can do for now is continue to enjoy the games, and hope that one day Sega makes a new, brilliant Samba De Amigo game.